Does truth exist? Yes. There is a truth to our origin and a truth to the reality in which we exist. There is an ultimate truth for the universe. Can we know this truth? Maybe, maybe not. We know the truth about some things, while other things are just our interpretation of things based on experience and gathering information. When people present concepts as truth, this is mainly what they are doing. They are giving their interpretation of what they have experienced. For this person, it becomes their truth, but we cannot experience another person's life inside the mind and body of that person. We cannot know their truth. Through these bodies, we are designed to interact with and perceive our environment. We can interpret the information we gather to begin building a storage bank of what is true. We form beliefs this way. Our beliefs are created when we interpret information from our environment and our experiences that we feel might be true, and therefore we store them as truth. We tend to measure any additional information against this set of banked or stored beliefs, and these beliefs can be very difficult barriers to overcome when searching for ultimate truth. Humans seem to be made with built-in blocks or barriers that are very hard to break through. If the information we receive comes up against one of these barriers, we tend to discard that information rather than exert the mental effort it would take to break through that wall. Breaking through that wall is frightening and it might be painful. We must be brave though. In a reality in which the truth is intentionally hidden, often we discover the truth is hiding behind that wall, or it would not be so difficult to access it. The concepts that are easy to believe and the ones that they want us to believe are out in the open. It's the hidden truth that we must seek to find, not only about the reality in which we live, but also inside ourselves. We often find the truth of ourselves contained within the shadow, behind the walls we have built to keep these truths separate because we don't want to look at them. There are aspects of ourselves that we don't want to know, so we build a wall around them and tuck them into the dark corners of ourselves because to confront them may be painful. If we do this, we will never know the ultimate truth about ourselves, and we become our own obstacles in the process of expansion and growth. We must learn to be honest with ourselves, lest we become victims of the lies we tell ourselves. We can also apply this to the ultimate truth of our reality. A lot of truth will be dismissed because it is too harsh or too difficult to accept, and it hits one of the walls we have built that we refuse to break through. Honesty is the foundation of truth. With metaphysical concepts, people will experience something and form a version of truth based on how they interpret the information they receive. Therefore, one person can have a different version of the truth than another person. One person in a relationship may feel like they have everything they want, while the other person feels devalued and isolated. The only truth that exists in situations like these, and many others, is in the individual's interpretation of the experience. We must be careful of our tendency to judge someone else's experience because everyone's interpretation is valid, and everyone has a piece of the puzzle of the ultimate truth. You may love your job, but your co-worker, who is doing the exact same tasks as you, absolutely hates his job. Both things are true, and both things are valid, even though they seem to be the same experience for both people and contradict to each other. Have you ever seen one of those pictures that from one perspective looks like the profile of two faces, while if you look at it from another perspective, it looks like a chalice? See the background picture to this video. There are many such images we can find to illustrate this concept, and it is an important concept to remember as we read and learn about all the different versions of truth that are given. This is something that we ourselves have had difficulty with in discerning whether information was genuine or deceptive. We are getting better at it though, because the more information we gather from various sources, the bigger our picture becomes and the more comparisons we can make that contribute to our discernment. Sure, there is information out there that is meant to intentionally be deceptive, but this discernment can help with that as well. When we were beginning to ponder the information that Tom Campbell presents in his book and lectures, we weren't sure if what he was saying was the truth. Why? Because he doesn't mention the presence of the grid, and he encourages reincarnation. How can this guy be telling people the truth if his interpretation of the truth conflicts with what we perceive to be true? The answer to that is that we could be wrong. Everyone who is searching for the truth of themselves and the reality they live in must be willing to always hold this consideration. Information here is so scattered and hidden that we are bound to stumble upon a few dead ends from time to time. We must even be willing to accept that experiencing something also doesn't mean it is true. We each need to be our own detective and for our own experiences. The search for truth can seem like a maze, and sometimes we run up against the wall, circle back, and find ourselves at the beginning again. It can be discouraging, but just as in all mazes, there is a way out. Another way to discern Tom's information is that if he has only experienced what is inside this matrix, and he has only had contact with beings from inside this construct, his interpretation of his experience is not going to hold all the pieces to the puzzle, only part. Tom Campbell does seem to have come upon some very valuable and expansive concepts when it comes to reality and consciousness, and for this we find his information beneficial. This has been a good model for discernment. To use his terms, does it lower entropy, increase love? We perceive his information as beneficial, but that may not be your perception, and so you might not find his concepts as truth based on your own discernment. The same discernment applies to everyone who tries to educate people and encourage others to know that there is more to this reality than what we've been led to believe or experience. The reason this field is so confusing and everyone is chasing their own tails is because one person's interpretation of their experiences may contradict someone else's, and we don't know who to believe. When everything we've ever been told or experienced seems to be a lie, how do we trust anything as truth? Outside of interpretation, there exists the undeniable truth of the situation. We should not let our beliefs or disbeliefs be our guiding compass for truth. Just because we believe something does not make it true. We live in a very harsh reality where things were not meant to be this hard, but they are, and we must figure things out. The situation we are in is very complicated and buried under many layers, and that includes us. In peeling the layers of our reality and ourselves, we have come upon some very harsh truths that we wish weren't so. But if we are honest with ourselves, we can accept it for what it is. We can change our perception and our outlook on what we face here, just like we can see the picture described earlier as two profiles of a chalice. So, in that regard, we have a choice of how we want to move forward with this knowledge. However, a change in perception doesn't mean that an ultimate truth does not exist. A change in perception just means we decide to use what we have learned to grow from the experience, while others will have the perception to resent their situation and be angry with the reality. The truth still exists inside these two perceptions. Truth itself seems to have landed in the category of paradoxes. On one hand, ultimate truth does exist, yet truth is open to interpretation. As with every paradox here in this reality, that must mean we are on the right track. Quote, "Well, the way of paradoxes is the way of truth. To test reality, we must see it on the tightrope. When the verities become acrobats, we can judge them." The quote is from Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Truth can seem like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how tightly you try to grasp it, it finds a way to slip through your fingers. Isn't that what we say when a concept appears to be untrue? That doesn't hold water. It's an idiom we use when something doesn't seem logical or sound. Maybe the secret to knowing the ultimate truth is in getting a better grip on reality. Or maybe in a reality in which our intentions create our reality, saying to ourselves, "There is no truth," or "I don't know the truth," is exactly what we get. When we are giving the choice of perception, maybe by accepting everything as probable truth, we find truth nowhere. If ultimate truth exists, then maybe there is a correct perception and an incorrect perception. In the picture described earlier, only one of the perceptions will hold water, the chalice. What do you think? Is there an ultimate truth to the universe and our reality, or is everything open to interpretation, therefore everything and nothing is true? In a universe that is constantly changing, and with the divine being's intent on experiencing more of herself through interpretations and perceptions of experiences, maybe perception exists as the ultimate truth.